Hi there everybody, it's Verity here from inkandbutterfly.com. Thank you so much for joining me today for another card making video. Today we're going to use Inspiring Imperfections. This is a set that's in the current annual catalogue. So it's not a set I've used a lot, but I figured it was time to get it out and have a play with it again. So we are going to create this card today with lots of texture, a bit of heat embossing, some sort of shine on there. Okay, just going to do a different colourway as always. So obviously I've used some gold there, and I've brought in some brown ink with pecan pie, just bringing in the coordinating embellishments there as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using with the coordinating dies. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to mix things up a little bit, but what I've already done ahead of time, just because we needed lots of them, is I've used the dies to cut out these little delicate little floral embellishments, if you want to call them that. And I've done 4 of those, and I've just used the white willow cardstock for that. So there's 4 of those ready to go. Okay, so I've already done that bit, and I've got some little bits and pieces sort of already die cut as well. So the little sentiment strip I've already die cut as well. This piece is actually the inside, what's left over when you die cut the frames from Gallery Blooms, and it's a really nice sized element, but it fits the size of that perfectly. So that's the bit that's sort of floating in the background there, which we're going to add some ink to. And then I've just got a 2-inch strip of cardstock which we're going to emboss, and some scrap to stamp on. Okay, so let's do some embossing then. So we're going to use this folder. It's the Eyelet embossing folder. This is a 3D embossing folder, also in the annual catalogue. Okay, and just going to use the design to sort of centralise that in there, just eyeballing it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Going to go about there, I think, and we're going to run that through the die cut machine. Okay, so this is going to create this panel here at the back. It's a 3D embossing folder, so we don't need our die adapter plate. We just need our base platform and the dark grey number 4 plate, so that just goes on there. There's the number 4 plate, it says there at the top, and we're going to run that through. Okay, there we go. So that's all done and ready to go, and we're leaving this bright white. We're not going to add any colour to that. Okay, so let's put together our sandwich back together for die cutting. So we need the 1, 2 and a number 3 plate. So my number 3 is starting to get very banged up, but I use them and use them and use them until I can't use them anymore. Okay, and we're going to do our stamping and our heat embossing. Okay, so just got a scrap of cardstock here, and we need to do the floral. Oh, this looks like a bit of a chrysanthemum, I would say. It's kind of in keeping with the sort of I can't remember what the technique is where they repair broken china with like this gold outline. There's a technique, it's called something, but I believe it's a Japanese technique, and chrysanthemums are kind of that feeling. So this is Versamark ink. It's a clear sticky ink. So I know that that's over there, so I'm going to pop those over here, twizzle this one round and squeeze it in at the bottom there. I think that'll be okay. Just some nice firm pressure on there. Might be a bit close, but it's fine. It'll do. It'll do. And we'll bring in our embossing additions kit, which consists of this lovely tidy tray, handy dandy tweezers, which are really good for holding on to these things while you're heating them, and a lovely brush to brush away all that stuff. And what I always forget to do is use my anti-static bag. So we might end up with embossing powder where we don't want it because I forgot to use it. Oh dear, never mind. We're going to switch to copper though instead of gold. I like copper. I don't use it often enough. So we're just going to shake that on, and that ink will hold on to it. Just tap off lightly a few little bits and around the edge, but because we're die cutting it, I'm not going to worry about it. And then we'll chuck some in this direction as well. Oops. I'm just going to release those tweezers a minute because there's just powder catching on those. So let's just, now that I can see where I can handle the cardstock without damaging the image, there we go. Right, so like I say, all that excess at the around the outside, I'm not going to worry too much about. You can use the brush just to brush some of that away, and then you can just sort of flick it a little bit and it will come away. But we're die cutting it, so we're not going to worry. And then we can just funnel this excess powder back into the tub. It doesn't go to waste. So even though you kind of, you know, chuck a lot on the image, you don't use all of it. Let's tidy that away before there's a spillage. Okay, I am going to pop this back into the tweezers though, because what I need to do is heat set this and just melt that powder onto that cardstock. So I'm going to bring in the heat tool, which is going to be loud, so if you don't want to hear that going on in the background, then do mute your sound for a minute. If you enjoy white noise and find it soothing, please enjoy. So I'm going to heat this up on the second power setting. There's two heat settings on most heat tools. This is the Stampin' Up one and 2. So we're going to switch it to number 2. We'll let it warm up and we're going to heat this up. And I'm going to try and angle it so that you can see it actually turn nice and shiny. So we'll get that done. I'm back in a sec. There we go. Right, I was just checking there. I just thought I saw a bit that wasn't quite melted. But that's turned from a dull powder to a nice shiny metallic look now, which is what we want. So let's just clear the deck some little bits, and we can get this these elements die cut. So we need the vase and we need a little flower. I don't need that actually. Right, so like I say, all those bits and pieces around the edge we don't need to worry about. They'll just come away when we die cut this. So just lining that die up with the image. I'm just going to pop a little bit of low tack tape there just to hold it in place so that it stays where we want it to go. Same with the vase, and obviously we'll have to run this through a couple of times because we've got 2 flowers to cut. So we'll just tack that there and we'll run it through. That'll give us our vase and our first flower, and then we'll just have to just run again just quickly to do our second one. Oops. So run that through. This will pop out beautifully, so we don't need that die anymore. This one will pop right out, and we'll just reposition that one. It's kind of close to that leaf there, but I think once they're all positioned on the card, you won't even notice, so just don't tell anybody. Okay, so we'll just run that one through. Those small dies only take a moment to run through. You only have to run them, you need to run the plate through far enough so that the die, the pressure is applied to the whole surface of the die, and bring it through again. So there we go, there's our elements. So we've got our coppery bits. So now we need to do a little bit of ink blending. So I'm just going to use some scrap paper to add some ink to this and to the card base. So we'll start with the little panel, and I'm just going to grab my medium blue brush, which is kind of my one that I use for like Azure Afternoon and Blueberry Bushel. So this will be what it will be. Okay, looks a bit more Azure Afternoon on this occasion, and we'll just apply some ink to this. We're only going to see the top and the bottom, so you only need to ink the top and the bottom, and you can add more if you want to, but there's quite often residual ink on a brush, so just use that. And I'm just going to use that same brush, no additional ink at all, and I'm just going to apply some in that sort of middle, sort of, if you can imagine the half, but it's sort of shifted down. So we'll do a little bit up there, a little bit down there. What will show, and it will just help enhance that those white die cuts a little bit. That's what I'm going for. Okay, so that's probably turned out to be Azure Afternoon on there. So that's our card base, all nice and done. I just need to crease the top of that a little bit more. There we go, that's nice. Right, so we're going to start constructing our panel, and I want that to sit behind and sort of sandwich the vase between. Okay, and then you can sort of poke about with how things are going to lay out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, but I want it all lifted up, but we've got this thing in the way, so I'm going to use dimensionals. Okay, so bear with me on the thought process on this. So we're going to stick some dimensionals along this edge and the other edge. We're going to use some seal and position our little decorative elements, lining that up. And I'm just going to use the embossing design to do that. It's going to be roughly right somewhere about there, which means I can put some more dimensionals there. So that's all the same thickness there, so you're going to get the same level of same level on this embossed bit, and the blue panel is going to just lift slightly just by virtue of the fact it's adhered to the back of this. If I put dimensionals on here, I'd end up with a bit of a domed look because it's thicker, but by placing it just on the one layer, it will be nice and even. Okay, so we'll take those off. So it's a lot more dimensionals than I would normally use because I want it to have lots of support. Okay, and so that we can get the positioning right, I'm just going to pop a teensy amount of multi-purpose glue. That gives us just a little bit of wriggle room to make sure that we have got this where we want it on the card. So my ink's sort of there. I know that this is 4 inches wide, by the way. 4 by 2, this embossed bit. You can make it whatever size you want, but 4 will make it the width, and then you could kind of mess about with the height of it if you want to use this little offcut. If you don't have the dies and you're looking for a measurement, it's approximately 3 3/8 by 1 5/8 if you wanted something similar. Okay, so there we go, there's our base. Okay, so our vase then sort of curled a little bit because of, oh, I've forgotten what I was supposed to do was stick all those lovely textured elements behind there, because it will be very see, that's stuck now. What I was going to do was flip this over, apply tape or across the back, and then stick these against the adhesive, which would be so much easier than trying to fiddle about with wet glue. So instead we're going to fiddle about with wet glue and add those dimensional elements around there. Okay, so I'm just going to use dabs of glue and slot these in to create this sort of textured look. Okay, so there's a couple of little spaces in between the and the flowers. Okay, and it doesn't have to be plastered in glue. You can just strategically place it so that it just holds enough without being excessive. It's really strong, so you don't need to use loads. Okay, this one's gonna fall in down here. Just lifting that up slightly so I can get that in where I want it, somewhere around there. So it's just providing loads of texture. It's totally optional, don't have to put these bits on. Like I say, one of the reasons for doing the tutorial was to show you this really quick cheats way to get all these fiddly die cuts put in where you want them. Might have that going over the top just to be different. Don't really want it overhanging that one though. There we go, that will do. Because they're only in little spots of glue, it dries really, really quickly. Okay, so our vase then, I'm just going to bend this a little over my finger so that it's got a bit of shape to it. And just because of the way we've positioned this, there's room for a dimensional at the top and at the bottom. Again, looking to get everything on the same, adhering things to the same level so that you don't end up with lumps and bumps everywhere. And it means that central portion isn't going to be stuck down, which means we can slide the sentiment underneath when we're ready to position that as well. So just looking to eyeball that and getting that into place. And like I say, because we've not glued that, we can slide that in and out as we need to. Okay, so we do need to stamp our sentiment, so I'm going to use some coordinating ink. What colour? Let's do blueberry bushel. Let's do that. So it's nice, you inspire me and sentiment. So we'll just pop that in towards the end there. Beautiful. It's a really nice colour, blueberry bushel. And we've got our little floral elements here as well. So I want these to, I can't even tell which one had the leaf nicked out of. Maybe it was so close it didn't even make a difference. So we're going to pop those together in a sort of V sort of shape and just tape it together, so then we can adhere that to the card as one element and not have to worry about it. So they're going to go somewhere like there, I think, and then we can pop in our sentiment down there. Okay, so I think we'll put that in first and slot our flowers in afterwards, and again just using glue where I need it, don't need it everywhere. So I'm going to pop this in towards the bottom of this panel so that there's some texture showing, but it's straight. And then before we press that down too hard, we'll slot in our florals. Okay. And just make sure everything's lined up where we want it. A bit more that way, and a bit more this way. There we go. That's lovely. So just making sure everything's in place. Okay, so this stuff's going to be a bit wet for a little bit, so I'd recommend, like, you know, leaving it with just an acrylic block over the top, which applies enough pressure for it to just grab just for a few minutes, and then it can set properly anyway. And then well, that's just holding on to there. I'm going to bring in these, what are these called? Earthy matte dots. And we've got these light blue ones, and I think we can go with those on there. But I used these ones for the other one. Okay, and just in true me fashion, we'll do our trio of embellishments. And that wasn't where that was supposed to go. There we go. Just to bring the whole thing together. There we go. I'm going to tuck that one in, I think. There we go. Super. There we go. What's it called? Inspiring Imperfections. Okay, so that's just going to need a little longer to dry, but apart from that, it's done. 2 versions for you. Of course, we've got silver embossing powder as well that we could have used with this, with a different colour option. And the world's your oyster in terms of your layout and how you want to go. You could use designer series paper. There is some designer series paper that coordinates with this stamp set. If you have that, you could use that too. So yeah, that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed it and it's given you some ideas. And obviously this catalogue will come to an end May time, I think. So if it's something that you want, do make sure you get your orders in. Right, that's it from me. Hope you're staying safe. Do take care, and I'll see you again at the next one. Bye.